Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the starship. Is that a tribble?
Hey everybody, welcome to Weekend Co-ops. I'm Nemo, and today we got a really crazy fun guest. I've been hyping him up in my head. We got Dustin Adair, I'm saying that right? Yeah.
Yep.
From Scary Robot. You make some pretty cool games, and you've done some pretty cool stuff, and we're really glad to have you on the show to talk about some of that.
Hey, happy to be here. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah.
Nemo, pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so you got to hang out with the illustrious CQ at San Diego Comic Con. That had to be interesting. The guy's funny.
Yeah.
He's a metronome. He's all over the place. Um, but he made an impression, and he let us know about you guys, and we made those connections, and now we're here, and we love talking about games. And you are the creator of one of those anomalous games that I really love to. So before I really like let the cat out of the bag with, and you know which one I'm leaning towards. Um, are you a big Star Trek fan?
I am.
Yeah,
I grew up, I have memories of a child. I grew up in reruns, of course, but I have
yeah,
memories of a child of eating banquet chicken and watching episodes as a little kid.
that's
You
awesome.
know, um, when Star Trek Motion Picture came out, of course, I went straight to that. I made the Spock's model, that the shuttle that gets him onto the ship.
Yes.
So, and then of course, like Wrath of Khan, I can quote front to back, without missing a beat because that's just so perfect,
Yeah.
you know. And then the stuff up before and after. I mean, before the movies that followed, there's some ups and downs there, but it's still Star Trek.
Yeah. 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 And I mean, it's a classic. It's one of
Yeah,
those things where even if you weren't of the generation to really be in those like in that audience, it was still just one of those timeless things where you could just watch them today, and they're really entertaining and they're really interesting.
yeah.
So you created a game called Tribble Troubles.
Triple
I
troubles.
always want to say the
Yeah.
trouble with tribbles. For some reason, that's just the name that always sticks in my head, even though it's Tribble Troubles.
Well, the game plays off of the title, of course.
Right,
Absolutely.
right, right. So how did that come to be? I feel like that just has to be an interesting story.
Well, I'll try and do the expedited version, but the gist of it is the fact that I've been fortunate enough for going on since 2010 to actually have a table at San Diego Comic Con. I literally married into it. My wife is a fantastic artist, and she had been doing it for ages. She'd always shared a table with a friend. The friend dropped out one year, and fortuitous that I was just finishing up my first game, so I sort of took over her half of the table and then realized it was a great way for not for promotion because I'd lose money doing that, but for game testing. So I was bringing games out year after year, and I had a kind of a space themed game, and I had a gentleman that came up to me and he just looked at the game and he just said, yeah, you could make a game for me. And then come to find out it was David Gerald, the author of the Trouble with Tribbles, and of course there was an animated Star Trek series as well, spinoff that was he made a follow up called More Troubles, More Troubles, and a partnership bloomed. It took a little while, we kind of drifted in and out, and I was mainly working with his business partner, a great gentleman named Miles that yeah, and he had all this plate spinning. So it actually took a little while from that first conversation before it actually came to fruition. But
Mm.
you know, was able to finally put it all together. And it was an interesting sort of circuitous route. But the gist of it was the fact that because he created the character, the Tribbles, and then the Quadra Triticale, I was able to use that. In an animated show, the Klingons created something called the Glommers, which were genetically engineered creatures to do one thing, and that's to eat Tribbles.
Yeah.
So I had license for that. But that's as far as it went. The license is so tight that even the sound effects of the Tribbles
Mhm.
were still owned by CBS.
Mm.
I was not allowed to use those, but thankfully, we modern day YouTube, I was able to find someone that reverse engineered exactly what those sounds were. So I was able to
Nice.
replicate it. And I never had a single Star Trek fan that ever said, wait, that's not the real, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
purr and screech, So it was easy enough for me to replicate that
Yeah.
and do that.
That's awesome.
So it was just part of it was just dumb luck
Yeah.
that I was able to have David Gerald walk by my booth, and part of it was also the fact that the great thing about being at Comic-Con is you have some of the big, you have Sony, PlayStation, you have some of these, and Microsoft drops in and out, but you always have those big game companies. But in terms of like indies, there were a couple back in the day, but for many years now, I mean, I've been, as I like to say, a big fish in a really big pond, and as a result, and I have this fantastic location that's towards the back wall. So I have
Yeah.
this fantastic foot traffic, and then I have these arcade cabinets that draw the kids in immediately. So um, I've been fortunate over the last several years that I basically come out and watch people play the game because
Yeah.
I'm looking for bugs and that kind of stuff. I normally average about half an hour to 45 minutes of sit down time,
Mm,
and this is a 5-day show,
that's
so
wild.
that is a tremendous amount of foot traffic,
Yeah.
that always comes through. So it's been super beneficial for me.
That's
So
awesome.
that was sort of the plan side, but of course, just having him come by and see this game and just kind of strike up that conversation was absolutely just, fantastic luck.
Yeah. I mean that's and so and as I understand it too, Triple Troubles is really successful as a mobile game, right?
It
Or
is.
yeah, sorry.
It is. I mean, it's one of the challenges of working with someone else's intellectual property is the fact that, yeah, I sat down and I came up with this, just this prototype that I was really proud of, and I showed it to Miles, my business partner, the one that is representing the IP, and he just went, no, and that's that is something you face when you work with someone else's IP
Yeah.
because you have a mindset of what you want to bring to it, and they have every right to go, that's great, but no, you
Yeah.
know. So
Yeah.
we went in a different direction. I was thinking more of a puzzle type game, and he wanted something more arcade, almost Pac-Man like, So I
Oh.
went off of that, and we went in that direction.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm very proud with the end result, and it's I would love to have done something different, but
Yeah.
that was what the path we chose. And the end result, I'm very happy with the game. I think it plays really, really well.
Yeah.
And equally important for me was that it also opened the door to the next thing, So that was super beneficial.
Yeah.
That's you know,
Yeah.
that's the foreshadowing.
I was gonna say, yeah, and working with IPs, that I mean, I imagine the challenge because the owner of the IP, it's got to please them, and I think at that point it was deeply rooted amongst multiple agencies and stuff like that, like CBS and
Yeah.
the Gene Roddenberry people and stuff like that. So that
Well, let me just interject there
that would be
because
great.
one of the great things about this relationship is the fact that I never had a single conversation with Paramount, with
Mm.
CBS, or any of the Roddenberry estate or anything
Yeah.
like that, any representation. The great thing about that was that it was all a conduit through Miles, who had the connections. So
Yeah.
he had the headaches to deal
That's
with
awesome.
CBS. And so that was the nice thing. And I mean, we were able, like I said, the game it's a vertical climbing arcade game, just for the context there.
Mm.
And then you play as a tribble that gets caught in a spaceship eating their quadritriticale, and the aliens on the ship beam you into the center of a planet as punishment. And now, as a tribble, you are trying to climb your way out
Yeah.
of that planet, and then you're faced with and he inadvertently also beams down all his supply of quadritriticale as well. So you have that to collect along the way, and you're facing off against glommers and all kinds
Yeah.
of other creatures that come up along the way. So so the other creatures are not Star Trek related because once again that was not
Yeah.
allowed. But we definitely have the glommers that look just like the animated show, and then we have the tribbles that sound and act just as they did in the original episode.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, it's great that you had your teammate to like buffer, the licensing stuff.
Sure.
But So and I like how you like casually walked into how it led to future opportunity. Are we talking about the Lost in Space game, or are we talking about another project?
No, no, no. We are definitely talking about
Lost
the Lost in
the
Space.
Lost in Space game. I was gonna
Yeah.
say because I really love what I've seen so far of like the art, and I know the demos on Steam. Demos on Steam, guys.
New
Lost in
one's coming,
Space.
by the way.
Gotcha. Go ahead.
Maybe even by the time this airs,
Yeah.
it will hopefully be available. It's just the one that's there is very old and dated, and I've been working so hard to get it out the door that I haven't had a chance to update it. But that's done. So new, updated, prettier demos on its way.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm excited to see that.
Thanks.
And like I said, guys, it's on Steam. So
Thank you.
how did you end up with Lost in Space? I mean, because let's be honest, out of sci-fi television,
Hmm.
I honestly feel like Lost in Space is like right there with Star Trek. I don't know where diehard fans might place them. They'd obviously argue which one's higher, but I mean, Lost in Space is one has some of the most iconic lines. Will Robinson and you know the name of the robot. I don't
Yeah,
remember the
he's commonly referred to as Robot, not the
yeah
Robot, but
yeah
Robot with the capital R. But his technical name is actually B9. It's obscure
B9.
trivia, but
Yeah, that's
yeah.
great trivia. Yeah.
But
So
yeah, that's one of the fun things about. I mean, these little kids will
mhm,
walk by my booth, and they have no idea why they're saying it or what it means, but they'll go danger, danger.
yeah.
I mean, the little kids that
Yeah.
it's just so the connection is definitely there, even if it's almost borderline subliminal.
Yeah, yeah, and it's funny because like to see it passed down because at
Hmm.
this point, from the start of something like Lost in Space till today, we're talking about 4 or 5 generations, right? I would
Yeah,
think. I mean, not necessarily have passed, but like have been affected or have had that line passed down because you had the original show, then you had the
right.
movie, updated
99,
movie,
right.
and then the TV show on
The
Netflix a
Netflix
few years
version.
ago. Yeah.
Sure.
So it's great to see it being passed down, and then, it's just this commonly used dialogue that came from a show that's so old that most people who live today don't remember it, you know?
Right.
So, how did you land on Lost in Space?
That was actual planning, less luck, more planning. In that situation, I live in this small podunk, small sleepy little town called Las Vegas, Nevada, and every year they have a licensing convention. And it's one of those things that you
Nice.
could just sign up and then walk in the door. And then anyone that has the ability to get to Las Vegas, which I know is a terrible idea, but consider it. They actually have a couple of hotel rooms here. It's a strong availability. Anyways, if you can make it to the licensing convention, I highly recommend it because they basically let everyone in.
Yeah.
You can come in, and if you walk in the front door, yeah, you see the big companies. You see Sony, you see like
Yeah.
CBS, you see all these major, Nickelodeon, that kind of stuff. You walk past those. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you can try and speak to those people, but generally, unless you're like someone famous yourself, I suggest you walk past that. And that's what I did. And in my coming around, I came across the Wonderful World of Irwin Allen, and in this secondary, tertiary aisle. And for those that don't know, Irwin Allen was famous in my youth for making some of the beloved disaster movies like Towering Inferno, The Poseidon Adventure, which got remade
Hmm.
not that many years ago, and all these nightmare disaster movies. But before that, he had a very successful run on television where he made in the 60s Time Tunnel, Land of the Giants, Voyage at the Bottom of the Sea, and of course, Lost in Space.
Lost in Space.
And for me, that was my childhood. I actually grew up in Atlanta. Everyone knows TBS, but TBS actually started as a local channel in Atlanta, Channel 17, and
Mm.
they played it all the time. My youth, the show had already gone off the air recently, but I was inundated with the reruns, because it was back then you had a couple channels to watch, and then it was there. So from my childhood, before I saw Star Wars, I was
Mm.
actually watching Lost in Space,
Wow.
which, Had the same music cues because a lot of the music is written by John Williams before he wrote Star Wars. Although
Yeah.
he's Johnny, Jazzy Johnny in the credits, but
Oh,
but so I knew the show, right? And
yeah.
then I came up to the booth and I came up to the gentleman named Derek, who's now considered a very good friend, and I just said, listen, I'm going to be totally honest with you. And this is my cold call pitch, this my elevator pitch. I just said, I'm a very small game developer, okay? But I grew up watching the show as a kid. I know it like the back of my hand. I could really make a great video game out of it. Oh, and by the way, I'm also currently making the world's first video game based on tribbles from Star Trek. And he just went, yeah, let's talk.
Let's do that.
you know,
Yeah.
so it was a solid elevator pitch,
Yeah.
and then and then we went through the discussion, and foolishly, I guess I was so excited by it. Foolishly, my initial pitch was to have like almost like a arcadish, scaled down Zelda type experience. You play as Will Robinson, but then after doing a quick search through some of the Facebook forums, and there are numerous ones of the fans, I realized all they really wanted was season 4. The show
Mm,
had a 3-season, kind of like Netflix. It had a
yeah.
3-season run. Unlike Netflix, which actually had a beginning, middle, and end,
Yeah.
the original CBS production was just canceled.
Yeah.
So I realized that I was completely barking up the wrong tree, and I explained to the Derek, the IP representative, I hate to do this, but I really want to shift to this, and I want to make it a point and click adventure game, which
Mm,
in essence is a lot of storytelling with puzzles.
yeah.
And I explained that we could get this whole new story, and he just went, that makes sense. I totally get it. And he backed me, which was fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been absolutely great the entire experience. I, I've only got like a couple minor pushbacks. Originally, he didn't like the Don West character, and I totally agree. So he goes, "That doesn't quite look like him." So made modifications. He went, "Yeah, that's better." So it's been super smooth sailing for the whole production with him,
That's
which has
awesome.
been great. But yeah, I mean, once we had that, and then for me, the thing, people don't normally do point and click adventure games for different reasons. One of them is because it's a very niche area, right?
Yeah.
This isn't Fortnite. You don't sell millions of copies, right?
Yeah.
But because it is an interactive movie in essence, so you play it and you're done. And unlike Fortnite, you don't come back to it and play it 12 million
Yeah.
years,
Yeah. Yeah.
But I knew that, but I knew that the fans would want this. They wouldn't want arcade. They'd want
Yes.
this more of storytelling. That combined with the fact that my day job was doing animation, so that's the other stumbling block for doing these kind of games is traditionally you going, yeah, but do you know how much those animators are? They're temperamental pains in the butt, and they're expensive as
Yeah.
hell. And
Yeah.
so in this case, I knew someone that I could get to do cheap. So that was enough to sell me on the idea that I knew it'd be a lot,
Yeah.
but it would be manageable and would make a better product for the
Yeah.
fan. Not the publisher, the producer in me was screaming because they're like, no, 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 just make them shoot stuff. Well, they can play it for hours and hours and hours, and
Yeah.
maybe multiplayer, and just went no. So the producer lost that battle, but the ultimate end result, I think, is going to be a better result by
That's
that
awesome.
choice.
Yeah, and I would say authenticity really, there's really something to be said about authenticity in gaming. You're seeing AAA's deal with that now when they've
Sure.
deviated so far from the source material, even if they created their own universe,
Right.
it's just fans know when they're being like uh how you say like
Manipulated.
yeah, well yeah. I
Yeah.
mean that's how games are. That's gaming, that's marketing, that's
Yeah.
but in general they know when they're being pandered to.
Right. Sure.
A lot of them think they want to be, and some do, depending on the age range of the demographic that you're talking about. But
Hmm.
with a game like this, with such dedicated material, with such a history, it's kind of hard to ever try to. I would hate to see a Fortnite version of this game. To tell you the truth, I really would. Um, so it is nice to know that there's developers out there who want the material to feel like it was. Honestly,
Hmm.
a game representing a lost season or a never gotten season
Right.
is actually really kind of awesome. So I'm excited to, when the full release and everything. I'm interested to see when the update comes out, because again, I watched with my kids the reboot movie back in the
Mhm.
late 90s,
Sure.
early 2000s, I think it was.
It was 99. Yeah, Matt
99,
LeBlanc.
yeah, Matt
Yeah, William
LeBlanc.
Hurt.
Yep,
Yeah,
yeah,
Mimi Rogers. Yeah.
great actors and actresses. Ugh. And then we watched the new one when they were
Hmm.
much older, and that was wonderful. They
Yeah.
enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. But it's great to go back and see, because I do that with my kids. I like to take these journeys and teach them about things that existed long, when dinosaurs roamed the earth, apparently. As young as we are, it's just very funny. They'll see things from OG Star Trek time
Hmm.
and Lost in Space and things from the late 80s, early 90s, and they'll be like, "Oh, that's where that thing you say comes from, and that's where this you do comes from." And I'm like, "Yep, these are the things that were
Contact.
my formative years." So
Yeah.
when CQ had mentioned that he had met you guys at San Diego Comic Con,
Hmm.
and and you mentioned the Triple Troubles, I was like, "Oh, all right, this guy knows old school cool stuff." And then I saw the Lost in Space, and I was like, "Yeah, that's a great
Oh,
little adventure game, narrative game. That's really cool."
yeah. You also you said you guys. I want to mention that because I for the longest time I been running the table myself. Because I bootstrapped, right.
Yeah.
For the last couple of years, I've had the pleasure of sharing the table with a couple of friends of mine, Grover and Paul. They have their own game company called Wim Indie, and the beauty of that is the fact that it gives them a chance to show their games, but it also honestly cuts expenses in half, and also it shows more games. So because we have people walk up and they have similar cabinets like I do. They followed suit, and they're looking at all these things, and I just simply, do you like puzzles? Do you like arcade? Arcade, go
Yeah.
over there. You like puzzles? Over here.
Yep.
So it's great because it brings them in, and it's been a fantastic partnership, and
That's
I'm
awesome.
so happy to have them around, and they're going to be back next year at Comic Con for 2026. But I
That's
just wanted to
wonderful.
mention that
Oh
it's
yeah.
yeah, I've done it solo and it's nightmarish,
Yeah.
so it's so much fun having friends to share that table with like that.
Yeah. I mean, going to any of those conventions by yourself is just dreadful. Like
Yeah.
CQ will tell you, he ran the whole convention by himself. Usually we run in teams of two or three to do coverage, because coverage. It's
Mm,
you guys have one table to man, and that's
right.
a lot, and you got a lot of traffic and a lot of interaction. When we do ours, we're at different panels and different interview carpets, and oh, the activations, everything, you name it. So I'm glad you have some partnership there, some
Hmm.
some road dogs, as you were. Um, we hope we'll see you guys next year.
Oh, definitely.
Um,
Yeah, we're already paid up and ready to go.
awesome, yeah. And
We
then
waited in line, and we were in the cool line. We were in the exhibitors line, and we
yep,
had the only Sam J. Jones waiting in line behind us. Flash.
yep,
So it's like, yeah, we're in the cool line.
yep.
But yeah, all paid up, ready for 2026 for sure.
Awesome. So by that time, will
Mhm.
we see more of Lost in Space, or will
Oh,
we
by
see
that
full
time, the game will
release?
be very much out.
Very
Yeah,
nice.
so
Yeah.
the whole point of Comic-Con was do the final test, right? This
Yes.
is the final burn test because a year ago I was able to get a partnership, a publisher that cold called me of all things,
Nice.
named Red Deer Games, and their strong suit is doing Nintendo Switch ports. And so we had a contract signed up, and the delivery date was the 31st of last month, which was literally a couple days after Comic Con. So there was definitely pressure to get it all wrapped up and done, and pulled it off. I had 2.5 months where I just shut down. I did nothing. I told my wife, you want to go to dinner? Have fun. So it was complete lockdown, but got it done by Comic Con. Fixed a couple of minor bugs that I found at the show, shipped it to them, and they are currently in the process of getting ready to do the promotion for the Steam version, as well as doing the port for Nintendo Switch. So, in terms of time, I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
fingers crossed. I'm
Yeah.
hoping that it's measured in weeks and months.
Yeah.
But it's. I mean, I have not. I have a Switch dev kit. I have not put it through its paces yet, so I do not know the nightmares that they're going through right now.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
and they're on the other side of the world, so we have this communication that lags a day. But they need support. I give it to them. But
yeah.
anyways, long story short, definitely. Um, my next show will actually be in April here in Las Vegas. There's another convention that I love been doing for almost a decade now called Level Up. That
Oh,
started off
nice. Yeah.
as like they had more people at tables than they had people coming to the tables in their first show. But since then, over the decade, they've grown, and now they've actually taken up the entire hall, the South Hall of the Las Vegas Convention Center, from wall to wall. And it's just watching it
Nice.
every year just keep getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, attendance that I think is like over 100,000 now. That's what they're
Wow.
reporting, and that's like getting up to Comic Con numbers.
That's pretty good.
And
Yeah, that's amazing.
and
Level
that'll
up,
be in
man.
April. So I will, by that point, hopefully, will be the game will be out for sale. I'm working with my IP holder to actually hopefully be able to sell merchandise based off of the game, and we're trying to get that worked out right now. So yes, definitely, it will be out there. Oh, and by just to clarify too, it is not a full game. It is sort of like what Telltale did with Walking Dead. This is going to be the first of 5 episodes because if I try to do the entire adventure and one I would I'd grow old. So the whole point now is this one gameplay wise it's still in the neighborhood of 2 to 3 hours depending if you play through all the cutscenes
Yeah.
and you work through all the puzzles. You by the way, all of it's skippable too, so if you had
Yeah.
a puzzle you don't like, skip it, move on, not a problem. Cutscenes very skippable as well. But yeah, I mean, from what I found at San Diego Comic Con, the entire gameplay, depending on how you play it, can be upwards of 2 to 3 hours,
That's
and
not
that's
bad.
just the first of what is planned to be a 5 episode series.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of and it's an at your own pace kind of thing, which is wonderful. And that's the one you're looking at porting to Nintendo too, correct? Or
That's the one that's
that's
going as we speak. It is in
yeah,
that progress, in
yeah.
that process. Yes.
Being able to play it on either your Steam Deck because it's on Steam or the Nintendo Switch is great for just like relaxation and just I feel like a game like that is already kind of perfect for that kind of vibe, that kind of feeling.
Mhm.
So that's a great opportunity. I'm really excited for that one. I can't wait to see what it looks like. I have the Switch too, so I'm like I bet it's going to look amazing on the Switch too. Um, you're probably only deving it for Switch One,
It is
but then they upgrade them to the Switch Two as
right.
with the new kits and everything. So that's going to be cool. I'm
Yeah,
excited for that. You said Level Up is in Vegas
it is.
in April. I think I'm going to have
It,
to make a trip out there to go see that.
oh, you would love it, man. It
Yeah,
is. It is huge and getting bigger, and
that's
it
awesome.
really is very much. It feels like what Comic Con used to be.
Ooh,
Back in the day. It's because it's there are some big names there that
yeah,
attend, but it's still a lot of the smaller. I mean, we have an entire
that's cool.
indie game section, and I mean it is a game festival, but there's also tons of merchandise that they're going to anime. I mean, you have a lot of celebrities that do voices for video games and that kind of stuff that come
Yeah.
out. So it's a fantastic show. I'm happy to be a part of it every single year.
That's awesome. Yeah, CQ and the Pop Culture Warrior, as you guys know at home, he does a lot of that stuff. And part of that work with the Pop Culture Warrior stuff is what kind of gave us the idea for the show that I do, which is called Weekend Co-ops, was
Mm,
what if we took these voice actors who are coming on to talk about their work in the like different games and stuff that they do because we had been doing that for a few years and I was like what if they came on and they talked about the games that they voiced characters on, or came and played a character that there was? So Level Up sounds like my kind of place, or our
mhm.
kind of place, you know. So I definitely will see if I see you out there. We'll
Well,
definitely
we have a
let you
hard
know.
time twisting your arm to get you to come out to Las Vegas. I know.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
yeah,
a
it's
hard
gonna be
sell. I
so hard.
understand
It's
that.
a yeah, it's that's a tough one. I don't know. Yeah, no. So I'm really excited. You had mentioned some other stuff you've done with licensed work or cinema. Um, bring me back around to that because I was really interested. You mentioned Death of a Unicorn?
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
as I alluded to, the fact that I am an animator, have been an
Yes.
animator, and I was fortunate enough to have a good 25-year run in Hollywood, working on various TV shows, movies, and a few video games even as well. So
Nice.
And the last thing I did get to work on was Death of a Unicorn with Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega, and it just a handful of shots. The most of it was actually done up in Canada, and that's why I say, it's sort of the bookend of my career, I think, because unfortunately the visual effects industry in Los Angeles has pretty much come to a close. It's been outsourced to other parts of the world that offer better rates, and that's honestly, it was back in 2004 when a job I was working on at the time got outsourced, and I turned to my friends and I went, this is our future. I don't know how many years it'll take. It took 20 years, but I said, guys, we got to work on a plan B. And my plan B turned out to be making video games. So it was one of the more fortuitous moments in my life where I actually thought something and it turned out to be actually dead on correct,
Yeah. I mean,
but
yeah.
yeah, I did have
guessed it.
25. I'm sorry. Yeah. But I did. I 25 years of doing stuff that I wanted to do as a kid because I grew up on Star Trek. I grew up on Star Wars,
Yeah.
especially, and that was always a dream to do that.
Yeah.
To work in visual effects and to make video games, and the little inside kid in me is definitely freaking out because I got to do both.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty amazing, and I hope we can get you on to talk about more of the Hollywood stuff with Pop Culture Warrior sometime. I know
Yep.
you're probably incredibly busy, and CQ would love to have you. I know he couldn't stop talking about Scary Robot and Wim Indie when we were talking behind the scenes. So yeah, I look forward to whatever you guys do next. I'm really looking forward to maybe trying out Lost in Space on the Nintendo Switch when that comes out, because that's my favorite couch console. So
Mm-hmm.
take your time, take your time. We want it to be great. We want it to be great, but
It's out of my hands.
yeah,
At this point, I mean, because I did the big push, now I'm in the eye of the
yeah,
storm. Before, I mean, I've sort of like ramped down just to recover, but yeah, I'm just on the verge of ramping up, and I'm still working out exactly what that's going to be. If I'm going to jump straight into the next chapter, or if I'm going to wait for this to come out and then work on some other smaller projects in the meantime. But TBD. But yeah,
yeah.
definitely excited about jumping on the next thing.
Yeah, well, that'll be great, and we look forward to it. And if there's ever anything you'd like us to run on WTF Nation Radio, U.S. Army WTF Moments, our community has a lot of people like me, older generations, younger generations. We're into all kinds of games. So if you want to promote your stuff, if you want to get it out there, you let us know. You got a spot on our table.
That's fantastic. I will definitely take you up on that. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. All right, Dustin. Before I let you go, is
Mhm.
there anything you want to plug? Is there anything important to your heart that you'd love to share? CQ always gives everybody a chance to talk about their socials or talk about any kind of causes they want to support. You let us know.
Well, I mean, definitely, yeah, try and support the on Steam if you could wishlist the game. It's Lost in Space, the adventure game. Although we're gonna rebrand it as the first adventure, but
Mm,
you'll still be able to find it. If you go to lostinsspacegame.com, you can actually find a direct access to that. And then, of course, if you're curious about more of it, you can find scaryrobot.com. That is my game company.
awesome. All right, Dustin. Thanks so
You
much.
know,
I appreciate your time. Love having you here. Uh,
thanks.
we'll talk behind the scenes, but yeah. All right, everybody. That'll do it for us.
Thank you.
Lost in Space, the first adventure.
I'm Will Robinson, a crew member of the Jupiter 2 spaceship, and I'm in big trouble. Not just because I endangered my family by disabling the shield generator so I could go rock hunting in a forbidden cave, but also because someone was waiting to trap me in there. I managed to escape, but it was too late. My family's gone missing, and it's all my fault. It's up to me now to look for clues, solve puzzles, and discover what happened to everyone. Thankfully, I'll have my trusty friends, Dr. Smith
I can explain everything.
and Robot.
I am functional. Lost in Space, the first adventure, coming to Steam and Nintendo Switch.